How are you? Thanks for coming. It's like hashtag sacrifice. It's like, it's so true though. Like I haven't bought a new pair of shoes until this Christmas. I was wearing the same bag. Yeah. My kid, my oldest son, had a pair of basketball shoes, but he's like, it really hurts my feet. I don't know where this is. So, and we put him in another kid's gonna grow into those bags. Well, we went through that bag. Totally did. So now I'm wearing his bag.
That's such.
I pulled out his basketball shoes. I was like, these hurt for feet. Come on.
You don't like it?
No.
Make it taste like candy in
No.
the.
Yeah. Starburst.
My mom let me. Oh, no, you had to do what?
Okay, let's get started. We'd like to welcome everyone to South Weber City Council at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, January the 13th, 2026. Our first council meeting of the new year. We hope everyone had a great, joyous, happy holiday season, and now it's time to get back to work, I guess. So we appreciate everybody being here. We'll begin our meeting tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance from Councilwoman Petty, and then I'll offer a prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this opportunity we have this evening of meeting in City Council. We're grateful for the community in which we live and for their citizens and residents that live here. We appreciate their support. We're thankful for blessings, thankful to live in this great country and be protected the way that we are, and pray that that will bless our first responders and our police department and fire department, that they will be kept safe as they service and protect us. We're grateful for this opportunity to serve the community on City Council. Pray that the things that we do this evening will be to the best of our needs here in South Weber City, and that we will realize the responsibilities that we have as their leaders, and pray for thy guidance at this time in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. We'll begin. Yeah, so we'll begin this evening. We'll have our public comments. Before we do that, we'll excuse Blair Howerson. He was going to try and join us on Zoom. He is not able to be with us tonight, and it didn't work out to be on Zoom, so we'll excuse him this evening. We'll begin with public comments. If you have a public comment, we'd ask you to come up to the microphone, state your name, city in which you reside. You'll be allowed 3 minutes to make remarks, and the council will not remark to your comments. So it's open for public comments. Anybody? No public comments tonight? Okay. Then we'll move right along. We've got a couple of presentations. The first one, we'll turn the time to our recorder, Lisa Smith. She's got some swearing in that she wants to do. So, Lisa?
Okay, we can have Councilwoman Petty, Mayor Westbrook, and Councilman Dills stand up, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Rod Westbrook.
Having been elected
Elected
to the office of,
to the office of mayor,
City Council.
do solemnly swear
and solemnly swear
that I will support,
support,
obey, and defend
and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of
of
my office with fidelity.
my office with fidelity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Okay, then our next presentation, we've got our audit report, so Ron, would you like to come up and take care of that?
Good evening. Thanks for allowing me to be here this evening with you. My name is Ron Stewart. I'm with Gilbert and Stewart CPAs. We were contracted to do your audit for this last fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. So what I'd like to do is just take a couple minutes, go through the procedures of what we went through, the conclusions that we came to and how we came to those conclusions. So for an audit of your city, there's really three areas that we look at. We want to make sure the financial statements are materially correct, that they meet accounting standards, and those numbers can be relied upon. The second thing we do is we want to make sure that the internal controls are designed, implemented, and they're working effectively. And then we want to make sure that you're in compliance with state law based on the areas that we examined this year in accordance with state law. So those are kind of the three areas that we do as an audit. As far as the first one, the financial statements, we take the trial balance of the city and we perform a number of tests on those balances. We'll send out confirmations for cash, receivables, long-term debt, URS allocations, and a host of other things that we can think of to send a confirmation out to see if the outside party matches what we're showing on our books and those tied to each other. We also look at a significant number of invoices. We'll pull a number of invoices at the beginning of the audit. We want to make sure that the check matches the invoice, that it's posted in the proper period, it's posted in the proper GL account. We pull invoices as we're testing balances with fixed assets and some of the other areas. We also pull a number of invoices after the end of the year. So if an expense happened in June, but we didn't pay for it in July, we want to make sure it's posted in the proper period. So we'll go through and evaluate and look at those invoices as well. There's a number of calculations on a financial statement. So we go through and recalculate those balances. Depreciation expense, accrued payroll, URS contributions, compensated absences. Some of those things have computations or calculations. And so we go through and recalculate those to make sure they're meeting accounting standards. We do a lot of analytical reviews. So we'll take the numbers, look at this year, the prior year, see what differences there are and come to understand how those differences came about. We do that at the beginning of the audit. If there's a significant difference, we start performing tests or inquiring to make sure we can understand that. As we're testing individual balances, we'll do that again. For instance, if we're testing cash, we'll look at it this year to last year and try and understand what those differences are. And then as the financial statements are written, we do that a third time, just as a high level to make sure that we capture everything. We see what those differences are. And that's kind of really what we do for the financial statements, plus a host of other procedures that we perform. To come to the conclusion, so in our auditor's report, it says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund in the aggregate remaining fund information of South Weber City as of June 30th, 2025, and the respective changes in financial position and cash flows where applicable thereof for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So that's an unmodified opinion, a clean opinion, or the best opinion you can receive. So in short, through all of our testing, we feel like the financial statements that you have in front of you do meet accounting standards and that they can be relied upon. The second thing we do is we look at internal controls of the city. Now, we don't necessarily give an opinion on controls, but we do evaluate those controls to make sure that they're designed, implemented, and working. We do that through interviews, walkthroughs, questionnaires. So as we're going through and testing balances within the city, we're also looking to see, are we following the procedures? Is there controls in place to make sure that your assets of the city are protected? I mean, if there's just no controls, over a portion of your city, that would be considered a material weakness. If the controls were there and designed, but may not be as effective as they could be, that would be considered a significant deficiency. Both of which we would bring to your attention. So as we were going through our audit, through the evaluation and our process of internal controls, we did note that there was one thing that we felt like we should bring to your attention. Seemed to be there's a significant number of transactions and things that we needed to do that needed to be done after the fiscal year ended to get these financial statements to be in accordance with accounting principles. Some of those procedures I think could be done throughout the year to make sure that the information that you're getting throughout the year is more timely and more accurate. So we're just recommending that those controls, monthly reconciliations and monthly closes get tightened up a little bit. Also, I know you have an outside accounting firm that's helping. Maybe bring those guys in more often to make sure that the information that you guys are getting throughout the year is accurate and timely. So that's the recommendation we had for the controls. Other than that, we feel like your controls are designed and implemented and working. So there's nothing else we needed to bring to your attention tonight. The third thing is the compliance with state law. The state auditor requires that areas within your city be reviewed every either year or every other year. This year within your city, we looked at budgetary compliance, fund balance, justice court, fraud risk assessment, restricted taxes, government fees, Utah retirement systems, and crime insurance and public treasures. So each one of those areas, there's certain procedures that we follow. We follow those procedures, look at those and determine whether you're in compliance with the law based on those areas. Through our evaluation and testing, there was one area that we needed to bring to your attention. And that is budgetary compliance. It looks like there were a couple of areas where we were over budget. So the recommendation is that throughout the year, as we're evaluating and look at the budget, if it looks like we're spending more than we originally budgeted for, we open that budget up and amend for those additional expenditures. Also, at the end of the year, you can do one final amendment to kind of capture everything and just make sure you're watching those. It gets really challenging because you'll have a project and you think you've done it, and then July shows up and an invoice comes back with work was done in June. And so it's really difficult sometimes to do that. But as you're proactively looking at throughout the year, I think we can get a pretty good determination of what that budget should be, and then just amend it to make sure it covers that. That's really quick, a review of what we did, our findings and recommendations. Happy to answer any questions if anybody had any.
I'd like to thank Ron and his office for stepping up and doing this audit for us. They did it in a very tight time frame, and they were able to get this submitted to the state lieutenant governor's office on time, which was improvement from last year. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ron, anyone?
I guess this is a question for everybody. Do we have a list of those that were over the budget?
Yes.
Okay, so we can talk about that.
Yeah. The short answer is, as was brought up, there were certain activities that were year-end activities that we've done in the past. And the recommendation to do more month-end type things and quarterly type things, that advice is taken, and Brett and financial staff have already put in place ways that they plan on implementing that advice. As far as the specific finding of being over budget, if you remember, our last year's budget included payment of the bond to just one fund. And government accounting principles and GASB principles have adjusted and said, don't do that. Have it be prorated out, which is the plan for all of our subsequent budgets. But because that's the case, they said we needed to go back and show that in the various budgets or funds from last year. Well, that was after the fiscal year had closed. And so we did not have an ability to amend the budget to show those payments now allocated in funds that didn't have that money budgeted. So that's the budget amendment finding.
So was that the only ones then that were over budget that weren't?
Yes.
Okay, so no surprises on. Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions for, is it Ron, right?
Ron.
Ron, thank you, by the way. Great work. Just a request to David, if this would be okay. I don't know if it would be best to bring this up during the upcoming retreat, because we're talking about a whole year. Maybe that makes the most sense, but I would like to see all the recommendations that Ron just called out, and like, what is the action item that we put in place to address that, like officially? I'm not sure, it sounds like you kind of talked to it a little bit, but if you could make that more official for me, that would be great.
There actually, as part of the report, staff does have to respond to each finding.
Okay,
And that's already been drafted. We can make sure that you receive that and see that.
that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Mayor, I know it's not on the agenda, but as a point of procedure, I'd like to make a motion to accept the audit has been presented,
We
and
should do that. Yeah.
I make that motion to
Make the
accept the
motion.
2025.
And
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Okay,
Thanks, Ron.
next item is our consent agenda consisting of December 9th, 2025 minute, December's checks, and November's budget to actual. Is there any changes, questions, concerns about any of these items? If not, then we'll look for a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second that?
A motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item, resolution 25-06, appointing mayor pro temp. This is the council's decision on this. I might just throw out there that excuse me. We do have a few on the council that hasn't had that opportunity, and so I feel totally comfortable with anyone on this city council being mayor pro temp. So with that, I'll throw it out to the council, and
Mayor, I move to appoint council member Joe Dills to serve as the mayor pro tempore for the 2026 calendar year.
Seconded.
we just do all in favor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Joel, you are mayor. pro
I
tem.
assume he accepted that nomination.
Place whenever you leave city buildings, right?
Okay, discussion items, noticing requirements. Lance, you gonna lead this discussion?
Yeah, I'm going to kick this one off, and then Lance is here to answer any specific questions. Lisa's pulling up. If you just go to the spreadsheet one so that everybody can see that. Lance has done some good work double checking state code and city code, and this chart or table kind of outlines what city or what state code requires. Our city code matches exactly what state code requires. And you'll notice in that third column to the left, the state code essentially requires digital notice. Notice on city website, notice on the state website. Except at the very bottom where certain land use actions require a posting near the property. And we fulfill that requirement with the A-frames that you see around town for certain land use actions. The column second from the right is where we want to highlight that in two areas where it says mailed notice to all properties within 300 feet. Those are courtesy notices that the city still does, even though it is not required by state code or city code. It's not written in our city code, which is maybe a point of discussion if that's what the council desires. But those are courtesy notices that we still do in those specific land use applications. But in all areas, the city code matches the state code for each of those land use designations and actions. And that's the general summary. We knew that we had changed the code to match state code, but that by practice, we still have done the 300 feet mailing notices. So anything that by due process, anything that is written as this is how we notice and this is a required notice, we then would need to follow that letter of the law exactly. If we ever misstep, then we have to repeat it and do it over and do it properly. And so right now, those courtesy notices are not written in our code as required. If we did those incorrectly somehow, it wouldn't negate the process. We wouldn't have to repeat it. But if we wanted to require that, of course, that's a code amendment that the city council would have to undertake.
Could we add language, fudge factor type language that says we endeavor to try to notice properties within 300 feet, giving us an out if we miss one property, or is it absolute? I guess that's more of a Jamie question.
If it's in your code, you'll be held to it. And even if it's a may or suggest or endeavor to, I think there's a chance that if challenged and you didn't do it, then you'd be held accountable for it. So that's right. The way the courts look at not state required, but city required is once you put the rule in place, you have to follow it. And if you don't follow it, then it's a procedural defect. So I would urge some caution at putting things in that you know, that aren't required by state law just for that reason.
Yeah.
I think it's fine on a day-to-day practice to try to do more outreach. And, you know, most cities do. They'll post things on social media. They'll have surveys. They'll do things that go above and beyond. And there's nothing wrong with that.
So the reason why I originally brought this up for us to have as a discussion item was because the last 4 or 5 months, we've had some rather large properties and some big things that have been come in front of the PCE and in front of the city council with people who were directly related not getting a notice. Now, here's the problem as I see it is that I don't think we necessarily need to include that as part of the law again. But I think we also have to take a little bit more responsibility for it. We're already doing that for the website. So if we've got it, if it's on our city website, we're held accountable for it. If we don't do that, then we have to call and redo it again. We're not talking about usually something that is drastic that has to be done within a certain amount of time. But I think the question then becomes, if we've got people out there, citizens, who are seeing these things go on, seeing them on our website and on our agendas and all of these things that are coming up, and they haven't received a notice or perceive that they haven't received a notice, whichever way it's going to be, I think that still causes the same mistrust. I know the state changed theirs, and I'm not a big trusting soul of the state, so I'm not really considering them a good example. But what I was thinking then is that if we're going to do this, then we should just track it as an official legal requirement. So if it's not going to be in code, if we're not going to change that, then it needs to be listed on a separate document that says who we notified, when it went out. It's just a very simple form. It's nothing too technical. We're already going to have all the names of the people it's going to be sent out to, and just have signatures on it. That way we can store that. And if a resident calls up and says, hey, listen, I did not get mine, they can look at it and say, well, we looked and you're not in the 300 feet or 300 yards or whenever it is we're going to do it. Probably just still stay with the 300 feet. But I think that when we hear that many people say, hey, I didn't get it, then either number one, they were confused about when and what they were going to be noticed on, which happens, or they didn't actually get it, and we should be able to answer why. I don't think that this is all that critical or difficult to do, just to put those names on it and then store that paper as a document of record. So we can do it either way. I'm more than willing to put it into the code, but I do think that we hold ourselves to a little bit of trouble whenever we do that. So I'd like to see some type of organization with a document instead that is then kept and recorded.
Question for you, Lisa. What does that document look like now?
Currently, keep the mailings that shows all the addresses. I do it with Cynthia.
Does it include the date that it was mailed out?
Think so. If the date would be on the letter itself that we keep a copy of, that was mailed.
Okay. But we have the address list then, you're saying?
So it should be pretty simple just to be able to convert that, maybe have Jamie take a look at it, say, here's all the things that we'd want to have on it, so that if we ever were called into question by a resident or anybody, we've got full proof that we've done it, when it happened. It should be pretty easy, I would think. And again, this is just my opinion. I don't know what the rest of the council wants to do on it or sound on it, so.
I think might be a little confused on exactly what you're calling out. Joel, you're saying that you don't want to encode, but you want to put more organization around the process so that if a resident brings forward a concern or complaint that they didn't get notified, we have something to point to say, actually, we did, or maybe we didn't, but technically either way, we're not legally forced to do it. So there's no binding agreement here per se, but it's showing our faith in our due diligence. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so anything that would be a complimentary, or no, that wasn't the right one, word for it, that we're sending them out. I think if we're sending them out and having it part of the notice, and we're doing that as a standard practice, then we just keep track of it. We can put it in there. I'm sorry, what?
So if they are already keeping track of it, you just want it in a different format?
Well, so like,
It looks, I guess what I'm saying
Yeah.
is it sounds like if somebody had a question, Lisa could pull it up pretty quickly and say, this is where we're at. Are you wanting that like in a specific procedure manual? Like not in code, but in procedures?
like in policy or something, or quite honestly, as long as we had the document itself, and I know that you do, and I appreciate the work that you're putting into it. I'm just saying that I'm getting people that are still saying that they're not getting theirs. So for whatever reason, I'm just looking for a solution of how we can make that work. So if it's like I said, if it's a document that we could keep full track of, and somebody calls or somebody says, I mean, we've even had public statements that have been put on the website where they said, I wasn't notified of this. And that would be an easy one to just pull up that document and say, here's the document, here's everybody that it went to.
Do you have like specific, what am I trying to say? Specific situations that are not on here that they're not receiving the notice? The only one I think that should be added as a mailing would be conditional use permit. That would be like a short-term rental in their neighborhood.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that they should have some type of notice on that. But my question for city staff is, with short-term rental applications, are we putting out the A-frames near that property when it's coming to a public meeting? Is that part of our procedure for that? That is something that directly affects those neighbors. So if we're not, I recommend that we are. But that would be something simple for us to, I mean, that's pretty visible. If you're driving down that street and you see, oh, this is in front of my neighbor's house, what is that? That's pretty effective.
My thought was conditional use permits, including short-term rentals, did have A-frames. But we can confirm that but not mailing. So if this, the broader principle here or purpose in my mind is we want the public to know when we're doing public business, so that if they want to provide input, they have every opportunity to do so. We want to be doing our business in the public eye, especially land use decisions. And the quote unquote best way to notice somebody, I think, is a difficult place to land, to know where everybody likes receiving their own information, or feeling like you said, perceived that they were notified or not notified. everything we do, public meetings are agended and noticed digitally, but it doesn't mean everybody's looking on the city website regularly. And so there is a method through the state website to register for any public notice that goes on the state website for South Weber City to get an email and receive every notice that we get to an email.
Which is really good to cover our side of the bargain. I don't know of anybody probably in the city outside of this room that is on that. I went through to get that and how many people even know about it. So that I'm just looking for us to be a little bit more transparent and clear on it. This was not ever meant to say that anybody is doing anything wrong. But when people are saying they didn't see it, even if it's just perception, perception becomes reality. And then we start having issues again. So I'm just looking for a way to be able to clear that up.
That's why I'm asking if there's any other specific situations where people are not,
I like your
where they're
conditional
not
use. That
getting-
was a great one. And I don't know specifically under land use regulation, one is being considered in there. So. Do you know? Please,
The
yeah.
Land use regulation and the general plan, they're citywide, so if we started mailing those out.
Yeah. So land use regulation, so it's more when we're doing a change of a zone area, or what are you talking about?
Well, yeah, so. when
There's
you
a
have
zoning
those
map.
zones Or subject, those specific smaller areas where, hey, we're letting the people around the neighborhood.
I see,
But
okay.
if we had to mail those out, that would be an extraordinary cost.
Yeah. But at that same time, could that be something that we put into the breeze? Because again, I'm just looking for us to be able to push that communication a little more pushing than pulling from the state site. So.
My question is, what's the best way for people to get notice? Is a mailer in your mind the most effective way? I find that most people aren't looking in the mail for urgent notices. But
I
also
agree,
I don't
urgent
know where-
notices, but I do believe everybody goes through those mails to see which one is urgent and which one isn't.
Fair.
So there is an expectation at least there.
I think there's always, like you say, kind of that age old question of we want to put information out in as many ways as we can for people to be aware, but we can only do so much, and people need to find that information as well as not just wait for it to land on their lap or, land in their mail or something, but we do need to do everything we can so that every member of the public has the chance to know what's going on and provide input when possible.
One thing that you brought up, David, that I think might be something for us to consider is from an education perspective. Like you called out that you could register your email. I had no idea that was even an option, like what you're saying. Like how many other people, probably most people don't know that's even an option to do. So if we were to go out there and proactively educate people how to do that, that might help solve at least a portion of what we're trying to go after here. Because I'm with you. It's like if I got a bunch of letters in the mail, I don't know if I'd open every single one or not. Like I was like, oh, this doesn't seem like it's a bill. I don't care about this, But I'm sure there's a portion of the people that behave similarly. But there's also a portion that love the mail, and that is their ideal place to get intel. So I can see where Joel's coming from at the same time, where for more important things that impact people in a very either personal way or what feels personal way, I can see how the mailers can really add some benefit. And to your point, Joel, add to that transparency figure. I personally am in favor of not putting in code though, because I don't want us to be legally liable from that perspective. But I like the idea of having just like a standard operating procedure of, okay, code is this, and state law is this, but we're going to do a little bit more because we like to be more transparent with our citizenry than the state requires. So even though we're not required to do it, we're going to require ourselves to do it in our own policy and procedure and do a little bit better of a job there. I agree with that approach. I think that makes sense.
I think that's the approach we want to take. That's what I like. I don't think we should do any more than what the state's required us to do. Same reason I don't want us to have any problems, and if we don't, this that's in front of us, is this gonna be on the website? People can look this up. It's currently on there. So
You mean,
then,
Yeah, it's part of today's packet, but if you're wanting that.
so
in the
I
land use
think we
Section of the,
where we say mail notices to all properties within 300 feet, well, I think we want to pull that out, don't we? We don't want that in there. Isn't that binding us? Is that a requirement that we've got to then do?
I would say this is just a report. This isn't, and it's the practice that we're doing now, but it's not in code.
So as long as it's not in code, it's not binding, is that
So
correct?
we don't want to, yeah, well, I don't want to have it in code, and I don't want to have it show up anywhere on our website that it says this.
Correct, because someone could potentially
Because
say
if they
this
see
is
that and
posted.
They read that, then I think we're locked in. So,
the only place on city website that it is now is as part of the packet under a discussion item for tonight's agenda.
okay.
I
I think we need to do everything we can to notify anyone within 300 feet. I think that's a must. But, and if someone comes in, we can, relay that to them. We do everything we can. We thought that you were on there. But it isn't code, so, or it isn't, it's state code that we don't have to, so. That's where I'm coming from.
And I agree with that. I feel like we do,
I think we do.
I feel like we notice
we-
everything, as long as we're to put, the things that really are going to affect people are the rezones and conditional use permits. And if we are following our procedure of putting out the A-frames, people notice that, and people, I don't know about other council members, I get text messages from
I do
people that
too.
say, what's going on over here?
Mhm.
Even if people aren't looking it up. So that I feel like is a pretty effective way to notice for people. But that being said, I am happy to take this back to our events PR committee so we can do some more education for people on what types of ways they can get information.
Or calls or whatever, that you refer them, say, we have this, it's on the city website and under the packet, so people know that there is, the information is out there versus you just answering the question for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in some cases, they were of the day of the meeting a couple of hours beforehand. That they didn't receive anything and they just saw that it was on the agenda for tonight. So I still think it's an issue. And I don't think we need to hide from it. Looking down the list, just in Davis County, almost all cities still have it in there as code itself, or a few of them still have it as indirect within policies, but they're all 300 to 500 feet. So
I think we did have a few, but I think the reason we had the few to comment on not being notified, it's because when that went into state code, then we quit doing the mailers, did we not? So we always have, no matter what,
Yeah, we have never stopped.
notifying, okay.
We changed the city code to match the state code.
Right.
That no longer requires
Right.
mailers, but we continue to mail.
But we continued to mail,
Yeah.
okay.
As you talk through this, it strikes me that you've landed in the appropriate place. One thing you may want to consider on conditional use permits, I'm not sure that a mailer is the right message on that. The state code changed within the last few years on CUPs because neighbors would come to public hearings with an expectation that if they were vocal against granting a conditional use permit, that the city could change its mind and not grant it. When in fact, conditional uses are a property right that's enjoyed once somebody makes an application. It just allows you, if you have evidence that they need to make certain modifications, to be able to accommodate the impacts of that development, that they do it. But the city doesn't have the ability to say, no, you cannot do it if they can meet those standards. And so the state law changed to reflect that. And the policy underneath that I understood was that public hearings are actually damaging because they give the wrong expectation to the public. And I think sometimes mailers on things like that can give the wrong expectation.
That's
Yeah.
our legislator.
Well, I think it does create confusion when it's an administrative function and residents come thinking it's legislative and that they can provide opinion when really it's just applying code and we don't want people to be frustrated and angry, but we do want their input and opinion in decision making.
Yeah, I
And so-
got that. I got that all the time when I was on the planning commission.
Mhm.
And that, I think that's probably the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around at the same time. It's like, oh, I don't really have the authority to say no, so long as they check all the boxes. And so I always question, like, why are we having a hearing on this when it doesn't, their opinions ultimately don't matter? Because I can't use their opinions to sway my decision. Otherwise, now I'm doing something illegal, right? So
Yeah.
I totally.
I agree
what
with
you're-
you. It feels wasteful, right? It feels like it wastes your time. To the people
Yeah.
who show up, it feels like it wastes their time. So I think if you're going to have an informal policy of sending mailers out, you've hit the right mark because it's the two legislative actions that are localized. And then the legislative actions that are citywide, you'll do more outreach anyway on those kind of things, right? It'll show up on the board outside Maverick. It'll show up on the sandwich board outside City Hall. You'll put things on your website. You'll have surveys.
Pretty quiet, Wayne. Did you say something?
Yeah, I had a lot to say, but I'll just summarize and say ditto. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be, I don't think it needs to be, colorized. It doesn't need to be in code, which is what we said. I do think it needs to be in a standard operating procedure, even though it's a courtesy. If you don't write it down, Dave's not going to be here for eternity. Lance isn't going to be here for eternity. You get another set of staff in here and they forget it's a courtesy. They stop doing it. What changed? Why isn't it written down anywhere? We have this conversation again. So in my opinion, you need to have it as some sort of standard operating procedure. It is a courtesy. We're going to do this. I also believe in Joel's aspect that you heard enough input that staff should go back and find out an administrative way in which to document. I mean, you do have electronic payment methods. You do have people who prefer to get email notices when they pay their bill. It'd be very easy to use that as part of this important notice. Those who don't, because we have a large demographic in the city who like mailings, you can always do a special, envelope that says important city notice, and that kind of brings their attention to it. They can open up. I think we've given enough direction that now staff can go back and with that follow up and create some sort of administrative process on how to do 300-foot notices and how to document that. I don't think it's our job to tell you specifically how to do that. I think the message is it needs to be done and it needs to be accounted for.
Yeah.
It's
a little more than ditto. Okay, new business. One item. Joel has expressed an interest in taking on the LPC. Being one of the voting members there, and so everyone is all right with that. Why will ask Joel if he'll take that on and do that.
Absolutely. Love to.
Legislative Policy Committee meets on Hill or via Zoom, however we need, throughout the legislative session, working with the Utah League of Cities of Towns to make sure that all the cities are up to date on policy and legislature that's coming through. You're welcome.
So the voting members would be Mayor and Joel, and Dave is the alternate.
No, we get 3 voting
We get
members.
3.
We get 3 now?
Yeah, so the 3 of us would act as the voting members in LPC.
That's unfortunate.
Okay. Dave, do you have any new business?
Nope.
Council reports, Wayne?
We had 2 committee meetings in the past, during this year. The gravel pit, committee met on Monday. Nothing new to report. No new activities. It's kind of a low time of the year. Mother Nature has been very gracious to the area and keeping things moist, and so the dust is down. We did inquire about the future projects, Legacy, additional lanes on Legacy Highway, the North Davis Corridor extension, and right now, no one knows who's got that job or what pits are going to be providing services. So that's an unknown. We did mention that if they did, we want to be aware of how they plan to facilitate dust mitigation during that time, should they be called upon. Today, the Finance and Admin Committee met. We did get a quarterly report from our financier. It's turning out to be a very positive, wise decision of the council in reach to invest the certain monies of the city. We are outpacing the PTIF fund over the last 13 months. PTIF currently is about 3.98, 4.2, and our return is about 1/4 to 0.5% better than that. So we're doing better than PTIF. Not trying to talk specific numbers, but it's positive and trending positive, and the future continues to look so.
You're all
Yeah,
still
that's good.
And no, I did not win the $750 million lottery. I just missed it by five numbers. So
Wow.
That was a close one.
it was.
Jeremy.
Nothing new on our committees. We were just talking, Dave and Wayne and I, about setting up the first safety committee for the year. That'll happen in 2 weeks. And then I haven't attended my first go at planning commission again. So as soon as I get that, I'll report next month.
Okay. Joel?
Nothing new.
Angie?
Just want to let you know, as we've been talking about public relations, Shaylee and I spoke a month ago, I don't know, recently about changing the format of the Breeze and how we can make that more effective. So that is coming forth, and I've taken notes on what to bring up at our meeting on how to best educate and other tools that may be available to us. And that's all I have.
Okay. Dave, do you have anything else?
My only report is that the Public Works Department has been starting to move some of their items from the old shop to the new shop. And that is quickly coming to a close to have that project completely wrapped up. And there's a few outstanding items for VDC in terms of landscaping and stuff. But for the most part, that the buildings themselves are in a usable state for us.
A question by me. So what I'm hearing you say is the project is substantially complete, and we are taking ownership of those items that are substantially complete.
Yeah,
And
that's a
therefore,
nice way to say
warranty
it.
periods and things of that nature have begun. The clock has begun.
Yes. The mayor and I intend on meeting with ownership there at VDC soon to have kind of final project wrap-up discussion and make sure that everything's buttoned up the right way.
We yet to make final payment.
We are yet to make final payment.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Just a question on the open house, if we have one scheduled or a time frame on that. I'm sure that as far as events and PR, we need to make a plan on how to get that.
Yeah, no
noticed.
schedule has been set yet. No date has been set. Last time we talked about it, we talked about having them get in the building and kind of get using it and then looking at spring. So I kind of had spring in my mind, but if we want to move that timeline in any way, we can.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm just kind of wanted a estimate. Thanks, Dave.
Have some patience, Angie.
I'll try. I'm super patient always.
Okay, with that, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.